All right, y'all, let's reconvene in open session. And the first item there is number 5, public comments. I believe we had somebody signed up for the public comment period. I'll take a second privilege. I should have done this when we opened the meeting to welcome Mr. Shaughnessy and Ms. Harris to our meetings. Elected to do that. I'll welcome them to our congenial meetings, even though they've left. So we look forward to working with them as we do all the council members on an ongoing basis. We'll move then to item 6, presentation and discussion of the update report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures and policies, billing procedures, and LP&L staff and performance. Mr. McCollum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to highlight a couple of things in this report. On page 20, we have the little graphs there showing the statistics for the customer service department. But down at the bottom, one of the notes there talks about get a little ringing here. Customer service department has completed a reorganization. I think some of you may have been aware of that. Maybe not all of you. How's that? Still ringing? I'll back up a little bit and see if that does.
Would you sell the system? Sorry. Strike that.
All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. Light it up. Okay, so yeah, I was just going to highlight that second bullet point at the bottom of page 20. The reorganization of the customer service department has been completed. Now we pulled Dana Box out. I think most of y'all know Dana. She's been with the utility for a long time, and we've got a major project coming up that's going to involve our billing system upgrade, which is going to lead into doing AMI in the future. So we really felt like that was a project that deserved somebody focused on it 100% of the time, because it's a huge undertaking to change billing systems for an organization of this size or any organization really. And then also when we move into the AMI phase, there's a tremendous amount of public communications, discussion with numerous vendors, contractors that will be helping us with that system. So Dana's leading that up now, and so there's been a number of other changes in the department with Jamie, and there's customer service manager, and then a couple other changes within the organization that should make it more customer friendly and more focused on meet the needs of our consumers. That's really the objective behind it. Andy, I don't know if you want to say anything in addition.
Yeah, some of the things that we've done within the customer service department is we've kind of retitled some folks. What was a call center supervisor is now called the customer relationship supervisor. And not only will that person be overseeing the call center folks, but she'll also be overseeing the cashiers that are out front in the lobby. Those were historically under separate management. And so I think, we brought in an extra trainer where we'll have more ongoing training for our call center employees and our cashiers. We also had 3 different managers over 3 very small departments. We've consolidated those into one a little bit larger department under one supervisor, which is called our customer support department, which kind of handles that. They're not on the phone with the customers or in front of the customers, but they're doing those things to clean up accounts and get that done. So I think over time you will start seeing some changes related to that. We have also initiated there's a survey with APPA, and we are putting some benchmarks in place. There have not been benchmarks really that have been targets for us over time, and so we're participating in that study. Once we get the results of that, we can start really giving targets on some different areas to really see some improvements, which I think will be really good for our customers. And so I think over time you'll see some continued improvements. I think we've seen some improvements over the last couple of years, but I think that'll tend to ramp up with some of the initiatives we have going on right now.
Andy, does your software that you run your call center with allow you to track that those type of calls without doing something extra?
There is tracking, yes, and we're going to be able to utilize a lot of that. It's probably not as far-reaching as what we'd like for it to be, but we do track a lot of metrics already. And so I think we just need to identify which metrics are the most important for us to follow and kind of get everybody focused on the certain ones that we want to really look at. And I think we have a lot of the tools, they just haven't been put into place in a way that it shows some progress and incentivizes, our employees to improve. So I think, with the new billing system, obviously we'll have a lot better tools in time, but I think we have sufficient tools now to track those important things that, or at least the APP, other Association of Public Power entities look at.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you guys leading the way on that. I think that's something you're going to hear us talk about throughout the city over the next couple of years, I hope, is that performance standards and metrics and how we're doing. I think that's the type of information that our taxpayers need to see. There was a fascinating article, I believe it was in Fortune last month or the month before, about the city of Boston and compared it to sort of the Moneyball, sort of Michael Lewis's Moneyball book. But it was talking about how they're measuring, what they're measuring, and how they've been able to connect that to satisfaction or maybe that's not the right word, but approval rating certainly among taxpayers, and I appreciate that because they're the people that are paying. In your case, they're ratepayers, but regardless, they're taxpayers, and they're the ones that pay the freight.
When are we going to have an RFP out on the street to purchase these?
Well, obviously we have to get through the budget process first, and so once the project will be approved, hopefully by the council in the September timeframe, and then by October 1, we would be at a place where we hopefully can get our, we'll have a consultant that will help us to craft that RFP. It's the same consultant we're using right now for our online and our telephone system upgrades. So really once October 1 gets here, that can kick off that creation of that RFP so we know exactly what we want and what we need. And I would assume probably about a 6-month time frame to get an RFP fully developed, all the documents gathering and information that we need to make those decisions. So I would assume mid part of the next fiscal year we'll be able to have one on the street. That's kind of the initial goal, I think.
So, I appreciate those comments. On page 23, there's 3 new projects listed here. 2 more motels and hotels, and then an Audi dealership. So, we continue to get a lot of commercial development in town. And of course, if you look at all the projects on the previous 2 pages, many of which are under construction, you can see that there's a lot of activity in the construction in Lubbock, which is really a good thing for the city, good sign for the city. And that's really all I wanted to highlight, but I'm happy to respond to any questions that you might have.
Mr. McCullough, on page 24 is the outage causes.
Right.
On the June graph there, we've got, and I think that the highest bar relates to components.
Right.
Is that sort of weather related, or is that just a function of the heat? How does that?
I really need to look into it and see what that is. Generally, when you start getting into summer heat loads, you start losing transformers that are potentially overloaded, or maybe at the end of their lives they'll start failing. So I suspect that's what it is. It can also be fuses blowing, because we did have some lightning storms that blew through in June. But let me do some research on that, and I'll try to get you a better answer.
It is component related. Fuses, transformers, cross arms, insulators, any mechanical part at LP&L.
I think this is really good information. Really, I just kind of want to clarify that.
Yeah, I don't know why the sudden spike. That's a question I'd like to answer. Is why we had the run up in June, but I think it's probably weather related component failures.
Okay.
We'll look into that and get you better answer.
How we define what caused the damage. And I guess there's a tendency, like you said, when there's more demand on the equipment, that things tend to break down, kind of like running the car too long without changing the oil or something.
Or just like an air conditioner on an old car, it's when's it gonna fail? Well,
When's it- yeah.
we get into sometime short term.
That's a better example. Other questions for Mr. McCullough on the system report?
I think I have one. Since we pulled up all these poles downtown, and spent all this money, twice the LP&L ratepayers are paying for it, and then taxpayers are paying for it too. How many of these projects are in the downtown area where we're pulling the poles? I couldn't find one.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot that's happening in the downtown area right now. Buddy Holly on Mac Davis Lane, I guess that's the one. And the city, there's nothing in there somewhere. Yeah, the federal building, I don't think we've got we don't have a project identified on that yet, even though the guy has taken it over and has told us about his plans, but we don't really have a project set up. There's a few, but I mean.
Other questions? Mr. McCullough? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. I guess we'll go on and take up item 7 now. Presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of Lubbock Power and Light related to debt issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, and revenue and expense projections of Lubbock Power and Light. Mr. Parcher?
All right. First slide is one you're familiar with that we show every month. For the month of June, actually, we've gone to the summer months, so the average residential customer is paying $100, just slightly over $100 per month. If you compare that to last summer, you can see the average customer is paying $110, so it's about a little over 9% decrease from last year. The reason for that is the pass-through of our purchase power is down about 17% from last year, mostly related to the lower natural gas prices. If you compare LP&L's average customer to XL's average customer this month, they're paying about $8 more than an LP&L customer. And then if you look at the average across the state, again, it's about an $8 difference in what others are paying compared to LP&L. So you can see over this time period, since we put in rate stabilization, the LP&L customers have saved about $200 compared to an XL customer, and about $260 compared to the average statewide customer. So again, we're proud of those facts.
Did that turn into a headline someplace?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to see that in the paper.
Well, I talk about it every month, so hopefully somebody will catch on at some point. But it is one of those things that are nice to point out. A lot of people won't believe it either. The next slide is our calculation of our pass-through of our purchase power. And just to remind everybody, the kind of black line across is where we want to be. The black line is where we would be having spent exactly what we are collecting in revenues from our customers for purchase power. You can see we have actually been in an over-collected status for some time. The board lowered the pass-through rate in February the 1st, and so you can see since that time frame we have come down. June is the first month we actually are now within our threshold limitation. The light blue kind of rectangle that's not really a rectangle is where we want to be within. That's our range, and so now we're within range again, and we'll anticipate that coming down, and our models are showing we should be evenly collected by the end of September. So we'll hopefully that will happen. It never seems to work exactly as we planned, but it is working as we would have anticipated that it would. So right now we are about 3.7 million over collected, and we under collected about 2.5 million last month, so which brought that down from the 6.2 million over collection to 3.7 million over collection. Quickly go through the balance sheet. This is on page 27 of your backup, but you can see And I'll just quickly go over it. The cash and investments are down compared to where we were in September. Also, our receivables are down. These are seasonal trends, something that we see. In fact, if you look back at last May, we were down 10.2 million in receivables. So this is very similar. We're actually a little bit higher in cash than we were this time last year, and that's mainly because of the over-collected status that we're in right now. We're holding a little bit more cash than we were this time last year. So not down quite as much as we have seen. Restricted investments, which are our bond funds or our reserves that are on hand to meet our bond covenants, total about $38 million. That's $4 million over where we were at the end of the most recent year end. We did issue about $8.2 million in new bonds. We've also spent about $4 million in bonds on capital projects. So the net of that is the increase from year end. Our capital asset value is up a little bit. Our construction in progress is up about $14 million. Depreciation is about $12 million. So the net of that, we're up about $2 million from year end. On the liability side of our balance sheet, our accounts payable, which is mostly made up of our payment to WTMPA or Xcel Energy for the purchased power. In September, it was about $2 million more than it is in May of this year. So that's seasonal. The second line is our deferred revenues, which is the over collection. So you can see at the end of May, we were at 6.1 million over collected. Compared to year end, we were at 2.2 million. So the change there. Customer deposits are at 5.3 million. It's almost a $1.6 million reduction from year end. We've rebated about $2.2 million of customer deposits since you implemented that program to begin refunding those deposits over certain conditions for our customers. So that's been very positive. That's the reason that liability is down. Our bonds payable, 15.2 million compared to 14.2 million at the end of last year, up a little bit. That has to do more with, if you think about your mortgage, as time goes on, your principal payments are going up and your interest payments are going down. It's the same thing happens to us. So the increase there, part of that, about 300,000 of that's related to new bond payments that came on from debt we've issued, but the rest of it is really due to that incremental increasing in the principal payment, but you have an offsetting decrease in the interest payment. This just shows the principal portion of the debt, though, on the balance sheet. The other item is bonds payable are down about $6 million from this time at the last year. We made principal payments this year of about $14 million. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, we had issued bonds of $8 million. So the net of that, we're down about $6 million from the previous year end. And then the income statement, you'll see operating revenues are down from where they were this time. This chart actually shows May to May, so May of last year and May of this year. Operating revenues are down, and related to the purchase of fuel and power is the expense. The expense is down about $10 million right now. Our revenues are down about $7.7 million. We made some correcting entries this month. I know I've talked to you all in the past about some of our personal services, which include personnel costs, our supplies and maintenance. Some of those were a little higher than what we've normally seen, and there had been some charges made into the operating accounts that should have been made into the capital accounts. So we've made that correction for this month, and we've gotten everything back in order again. You'll see that we're still up a little bit in personal services, and a lot of that has to do with Winter Storm July that generated a lot of overtime expense early in the year. We also have begun filling vacancies. This time last year we had about 43 vacancies. This year we have about 29 vacancies. So we have begun filling those positions that have been vacant for a long period of time. And so I think that obviously has a little bit of impact on why our personnel costs are higher than this time last year. Our supplies is up for the most part due to water costs at our cook units, and also have to do with our consultant costs and engineering costs related to our ERCOT integration work. Overall, our change in that position, we're down about 4.7 million this year compared to down 3.8 million last year. Again, these are very seasonal. They fluctuate over time, so we are very confident that we're on a track to have a net income this year, even though right now it looks like a net loss. That's the way it always looks this time of the year. especially due to the very hot nature of this season that we've experienced so far. Well, on average, we're about 4 degrees hotter than we were this same month last year so far. So that makes some difference on usage. Our call volumes in the call center have shot up this month over the last couple of days. We've had lots of calls coming in just because everybody's getting their bills and they're seeing that they've been using a lot of electricity. And even though the rates are down from where they were last summer, we're still getting a lot of calls coming in.
Probably more water usage too.
Yeah, it's water. It's not just electricity. Budget comparison, just really all I'll leave you with here is that we are on track. Chad has completed, with the assistance of some of his staff, forecast. This time of the year we start really fine-tuning the forecast as we get closer to year end. And really, if you look, even though purchase power costs are way down and our revenues are down related to purchase power, on everything else pretty much is going to be right on track, it looks like. If things continue as we expect, we really anticipate coming in right at budget on everything but purchase power costs, which will be below budget. And then the last slide I have is the capital program. Of the 48 open projects that we have $37 million remaining. Portion of that in cash, about $10 million in cash, and about $26 million of that sitting in bond funds. In the bottom section of this slide, you can see what we spent those funds on. This month we spent $2.2 million on capital projects. The bulk of that with our transformers, purchasing transformers. We also have some other lines, some demolition at the cooling tower at Massengale. And so you kind of get a flavor of what the money was spent on this month. 22 other projects totaled up $160,000, so a lot of small dollars spent on a number of projects. But that kind of gives you a flavor of what's going on in the capital program, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Andy, your fund balance at the end of May, total fund balance is about $29 million. Is that correct?
Well, that is our unrestricted debt position, yes, sir.
And what's your policy? What's your policy, or what's your guideline? What do you try to keep in that?
It's 25% of consumers' metered revenues. So all of our metered revenues, 25% of that are
25% of that. 3 months of top line.
And we are above policy right now. We're about $7 million over policy. But if you'll recall from our budget, our forecast model, we'll actually be dipping below reserves in the next couple of years. So it's really acting as a rate stabilizer. So we don't have we're not keeping rates level now, but having to spike them in a couple of years. So that's been a kind of a policy we follow throughout, is to use that as a rate stabilizer. And we do know that those reserves will go below policy levels, which even though we're going below policy, I don't think that'll be a problem because we can demonstrate that it'll be coming back up the next year. So I think when we get to that point and we're talking with the rating agencies, I think they will be confident that our plans are in place that will get those back to where they need to be. But in that third year out, when we have all that large transmission build out going on, that's the best plan we can come up with, is to dip a little bit, but to keep those rate increases consistent and not cause any real shock to our customers.
And that's been a plan all along.
Right, yeah.
Andy, on page 30, on cash flow, just to get down to the weeds a second. I noticed we actually had a negative for the month of May. Our operating cash flow is negative. It looks like it's because receivables were up and payables were down. Is there anything in that payable that we paid? Is that we paid Excel?
You're talking the first section where we're down to 793?
Yeah, but you look at the reconciliation.
Yeah, right. And I'm sorry, let me know your question again there.
Well, if you start with our operating income and then you reconcile the non-cash items and working capital, receivables are up and payables are down. So I can see why receivables would be up. We're going into a hotter period. I'm not sure why payables would be down.
Yeah, I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more. Let me dig into that and we'll get back to you on the answer to that. Sorry, I don't have a
Well, I
clear
should
answer for
have,
it right now.
asked you, just,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that might be, but
I had that marked and then I just saw it close to it.
I believe we have a bunch of capital stuff that was in the payables. You remember it was really high and then washed out.
yeah, that's true. We did have the auto transformer, and we had some other several pretty large
Like $4 million.
capital project expenditures that were in the payable last month that probably came out this month. So that might have been a month-to-month change there. I think
Yeah, I
that's
see what you're saying.
But let us dig in, and we'll get the specifics
Okay.
for you.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. I'm just asking.
Didn't leave it up at my fingers.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman.
He's asking me for a loan so he can pay his electric bill. And he lives by himself.
We do have another, we have a little booth down in the lobby now for telephone. So it's amazing how many people, we've set up some kiosks in the lobby to try to get people going onto the internet and, like getting some of our customer service reps to train people, how to go through the internet. And people will not do that, but we say, but if we have a phone, they'll just go pick up that phone and punch in their checking account number all day long. It's kind of shocking. So Mr. Bowman, if you want to go down and play with one of those two.
Is that right next to the feigning station?
We took out the feigning station. It's in the basement now, sorry.
It's next to the penny changer. Any other questions from Mr. Burcham on the financial statement? As always, as usual, I'd like to express my appreciation, Andy, to you and Chad, for both the thoroughness and just the level of detail and the level of explanation on all of this. I appreciate it. Thank you. If nobody has another question, then we will go to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bell.
if nothing's been pulled, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, items 8 through 11.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion second. Unfortunately, the consent agenda, I believe that's a discussable motion. So I would take just a second to say, does anyone want to pull anything? Before
I'm making a motion. If.
Okay. All right, and so we've got the motion in a second. I'll just go ahead and say, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, you got us through that in a hurry. So I guess,
I'm gonna go I need time to go pay my electric bill.
I guess we will be adjourned. Thank you.